Hey everyone, welcome to this week's video. Today we're going to be going over my top accessories for each of the squat, bench, and deadlift. This video we're going to be going over why they're my top three and how I chose them and why you should have these lifts in your program and how they're going to grow your squat, bench, and deadlift so you can hit those PRs. Now I'm not going to say that these accessories directly cause me to hit PRs. I'm not saying these are going to change your lifts. They're not going to blow up single-handedly your lifts. Hitting the squat, bench, and deadlift are the most effective ways of growing your squat, bench, and deadlift. You aren't going to get a huge bench by doing my bench accessory only. Now, if you bench and hit this bench accessory, it's going to grow your bench with it, and you're going to have a lot of success. But making sure the one thing is the one thing, making sure you're squatting, benching, and deadlifting is the way you're going to get the strongest squat, bench, and deadlift. Now, to make this list, I had two criteria that the accessory needed to hit. Number one, it had to have a high stimulus to fatigue ratio. So what that means is when I do this lift, I can't be sore for days on end after I hit it. That's high fatigue. It has to have high stimulus, which means I have to have a high benefit from doing the lift. It either has to be a good hypertrophic gain or has to be a good skill acquisition. I have to derive a lot of benefit from doing this lift, or else why I would just do the squat, bench, or deadlift. It has to have a carryover and it can't make me super fatigued. Those are the two criteria. Now, as always, starting off with the squat, my top squat accessory is going to be the paused squat. And now I know a lot of people are saying it's just a squat. You're just pausing your squat. It's a lot more different of a movement than you think. If you've never done it before, I highly suggest it. It allows you to feel like you're under such a heavy load, but you don't have to load it up like you would for a heavy squat. So if you're going to do a triple or a set of 4 in a pause squat, by that last rep, that weight's going to feel really heavy if you're doing correct pauses at the bottom and you're maintaining position. I really like the pause squat for the benefits it gives me in positioning. If I'm ever out of position or I feel like I'm going too forward or too backward, I love when I see pause squat on the program because it enables me to get back to reset myself and really feel like my bar path is going straight up and down and the bar's not rolling. It really gets me back in tune and ready to hit heavier weights. So pause squat is a great movement, especially if you're weak out of the bottom of your squat. Programming pause squat can really help you through that weak point because you're going to have to pause at the bottom just like you would for a pause bench press. You pause at the bottom when you're hitting comp depth and you just sit there for a second and then you pop up. Now, what a lot of people I see do on this is pause and then drop down after you pause and get that stretch reflex. What the pause squat is aiming to do is to eliminate that stretch reflex at the bottom like you would in a competition. You go down, you bounce up. A pause squat, you're going to pause at the bottom and eliminate that stretch reflex. So you have to push completely with your muscle and not with your tendons like you would with the stretch reflex. You're going to just go down and pause for a second or two and then come back up, reset, and do it again. Over enough time and over enough volume with pause squats, you're going to get really good and feel really comfortable with that bar pattern, and you're going to be happy with your squat. Now, I wouldn't suggest hitting pause squats for your primary day. Those are meant for squatting your main lifts, especially if you're close to competition or when you're going to max out. But I can't suggest pause squatting enough, especially if your bar path, you don't like your bar path or you're feeling unstable or unbalanced on your squat. Pausing can be a great way to get that positioning back and really help you out of the bottom of your squat. Now, following up the squat, we have the bench press. Now, my top accessory for bench is going to be the close grip bench. And I know a lot of you are saying the same thing. It's just like a bench, except you're moving your grip in. But if you move your grip in enough, it can really help you through some weak points. Especially for me, I had an issue for a while where I would just let the weight fall and then try to push it back up. And there'd be some times where it's either going all the way up fast or I'm going to get pinned by it. Now, getting a close grip really helps you control the weight. Some people call it the master grip because you really have to master that weight if you're going to hit it with the close grip. You're not cheating it. So feeling that weight and mastering that weight as it comes down, and feeling that soft touch on your chest, and then just really feeling it in your tris as you push up can be a great movement, especially if you have issues locking out your bench. So I can't suggest close grip enough. Whenever I see it in my program, I really try to focus on making sure, even on the descent, I'm controlling it like I would a comp bench, but my grip's obviously lower. It enables you to feel that heavy weight like you would in a competition, except you don't have to weight it up as much as you don't have to load the bar up as much as you normally would. Cannot suggest close grip enough. It's been a huge benefit to my training when training for powerlifting, so I cannot suggest it enough. Now, my top accessory for deadlift is going to be the RDL. I cannot suggest the Romanian deadlift enough. It is a great accessory for growing your glutes, and you can also target your hamstrings if you alter the movement a little bit. Some people would say that's just a straight-legged deadlift. Call it what you want. Stick your butt out more if you want to hit more of your glutes, or keep your legs more straight if you want to hit more hamstrings. That's all I can say. Now, one thing that's been helping my RDLs recently is using a belt. I used to not wear a belt when I did RDLs because it's like it's an accessory. I don't have to wear a belt. But wearing a belt has really enabled me to focus more on my glutes. Really can shove my glutes further back. Really get a good stretch on the glutes. RDLs have been crucial in growing my deadlift, especially since when I'm doing a lot of deadlift volume of just straight competition deadlift, my erectors get really sore. So being able to just do like a heavy set of comp deadlifts and then just going straight to back off works with RDL has really been beneficial for my training. So I'm not carrying a lot of fatigue through my erectors for the next week after I do a set of, or a large volume in deadlift. Not to say I don't do large volumes in deadlift, but one day I'll do a top set and back offs with my competition deadlift, and other days I'll just do a top single or my top set of deadlifts and then go to RDLs. And that's just been super beneficial for me, limiting back fatigue and really helping my deadlift. Now, if I was training for a sport like strongman or something that requires you doing a lot of volume on your erectors through the Atlas stone and through a lot of the movements that you see in strongman, I would definitely want to train my erectors more. But when I'm doing my max out singles for deadlifts, the erectors are never the issue. I'm pretty balanced. I don't have a ton of weaknesses. It's just when I carry a ton of volume in my conventional deadlift is when I start seeing problems in my erectors. So being able to shift that load to other places on my body that potentially could be more weaknesses for my one rep max have been super beneficial in growing my deadlift, especially in the past year when I've been incorporating them a lot more. Thanks for tuning in to today's video, guys. Before I let you go, we're going to answer one viewer question every week from here on out. I've been getting a lot of questions on my previous video, so I thought I'd let those leak their way into the video so I can get some questions answered. So if you want to see a question answered from me in a future video, feel free to drop that down below. This week's question is going to be, what is the difference between bracing with or without a belt, with a direct emphasis on squatting? Now, I released a video a couple weeks back about squatting, about bracing correctly when you do squat. And now, when you're squatting with a belt or without a belt, it's always important to make sure that you fill up your core with air and make it tight, like a balloon that's filled up really tightly with air. You're going to be rigid in your spine. It's not going to go anywhere, as opposed to if you breathe out right before you lift, you're not going to have the same support. It's not going to be rigid like it would be if you do fill up your lungs and really push against your back. So with a belt, you're going to have that mechanical support there. There's going to be something rigid to push against. When you have a belt on and you push and you brace correctly, you're pushing up against that belt and using it to your advantage to just create more rigidity. Now, there's been studies done saying that belts don't actually decrease injuries in athletic sports. For people who brace correctly, you probably aren't going to get injured that much, especially if you're training correctly. It's all about making sure that that brace is good regardless if you have a belt or not. Belts are only going to increase that rigidity and help you lift even more when you do wear the belt. I would suggest bracing the same way regardless. When you push out against your stomach and against your back, it's going to be the same feeling that you are going to be doing against a belt, except you don't have that mechanical tension like you would with having a belt there. The belt is only going to create more tension on top of that to make sure that nothing slides. But when you're doing when you don't have a belt on and you're still doing those same movements, the same principles still apply. You still want to apply that force out and around your stomach, towards your spine and on your belly, and making sure that tension is inside of your core. And same goes for when you're wearing a belt. So the differences are pretty minute. If you're breathing correctly, you probably aren't going to get injured either way. The belt is only going to enhance your ability to lift more, whereas not wearing a belt, it might take away some weight off the bar. But if you're bracing correctly, like you would otherwise with a belt, you're not going to get hurt and you're still going to be able to lift quite a bit of weight, as opposed to if you were breathing out and then lifting. Taking a deep breath in and then pressing out against the skin on your belly and in your back, and really forcing your core to be tight. And that doesn't mean flexing your abs, it means pushing out with your lungs against your skin on your belly and in your back. It's going to make it so much more rigid than if you just breathe out and then try to lift. At that point, it's just the only thing supporting you in the middle is your abs and ends your erectors and your spine. When you breathe in, you force all those other mechanisms out and create tension throughout the whole center of your body. I would just breathe in the same way and brace the same way, regardless if I'm doing a belted movement or an unbelted movement. So that's a great question, and I hope that gets answered for you. Thanks for tuning in today's video, guys. Feel free to like, comment, subscribe. I'd love to see some more of those subscribers. I've been loving the growth I've been seeing here in the past couple weeks. So let's keep that up. I appreciate it, and I hope you guys have a great week. Peace.